I hope you've enjoyed our series of videos of what would you buy at some theoretical budget, but today's is going to be our last one, and obviously it makes sense to do money no object. What would you buy as a dream car if the cost truly didn't matter? It's one of those most enjoyable thought processes and conversations that I know we have with a lot of our car enthusiast friends, so I was curious to see what our panel of experts might say, but for me, it's always been the McLaren F1. To me, it represents everything that we love about what the automobile is and can be. Although I'd like to say that I would pick the LM, certainly it has the greatest aesthetic and it represents what their racing heritage was. I'd want to be able to put a ton of miles on the car. It's certainly a car you can't step up from. So if it was my money, my whatever 10, 20, 30 million dollars that it takes to buy one today, I'd probably end up going with a high downforce kit car or maybe just a really cool color of a normal car. They're all awesome, all 106 of them, but I'd be happy to own, drive, or even be able to sit in just about any of them. I've seen several in person, but they are awesome. To be quite honest though, the Veyron Supersport World Speed Record car is not that far behind it to me in terms of personal preference, and it's way behind it in terms of how much it would ever cost. And so, I don't know, that might be the way that I would go, but I was very curious to see what my friends would think, and these were their answers.
While the McLaren F1 would be amazing, for me as a former car designer, I would want something even more special, and that would be a one-off Ferrari SP car of my own design. SP is Ferrari's special projects division where the elite of the elite get to help design their own car by playing design boss, sort of. You work with Ferrari designers over the course of a year or more, reviewing sketches and clay models as you would if you were part of a design studio, and eventually, many millions later, bam, you have your very own one-of-one, custom-designed, custom-made Ferrari SP car. Mine is inspired by the 330 P4 and would use the V12 from the 812 Superfast mounted in the middle where God intended. And that, my friends, is how you spend fantasy money.
For an unlimited amount of money, I'd want something that's just an absolute iconic car for its era. I'd want it to have a dominant performance record. I'd want it to be welcome at any concours or tour or rally anywhere in the world. I'd want this car to be accepted any place I took it. I'd want to be able to take it to racing events, vintage, modern, whatever, and have it be fast on the track and on the street. I'd want it to look good and sound absolutely amazing. I'd want it to have iconic style. I'd want it to give you a visceral experience that you can't get in any other car. And I'd want it to be from one of the great names in automaking. And I'd want it to be drop dead gorgeous. No matter what car you put it next to, I'd want it to stop people in their tracks. Modern supercar, full classic, whatever. I'd want it to be one of the iconic cars ever produced. And that is the 250 Ferrari Testarossa.
The year is 1935. The place, Nazi Germany. The race, the German Grand Prix. The Nazis have sponsored 5 Mercedes-Benz W25 Grand Prix cars and 4 Auto Union Type Bs with their mid-engine V16s. State-of-the-art race cars. Against them, Maseratis, a Bugatti, and our hero, Tazio Nuvolari, running in a team run by a guy named Enzo Ferrari. Now, his car is 3 years old and completely outclassed. It has 100 horsepower less than the Silver Arrows and doesn't stand a chance. The race is on the Nuremberg Ring, and it's raining. As the race starts, Tazio Nuvolari screams forward and finally collects first place by the 10th lap. He then pits, and it's horrible. The pit is a failure, and he drops back to 6th place. And this is where Tazio Nuvolari showed his genius. In the next few laps, he claws his way back to 2nd place. And as the last lap begins, he's 35 seconds from the lead Mercedes. The Mercedes knows that he's closing in on him, overdrives his car, and blows his tires. And as 300,000 people stare down the straightaway, expecting to see a German win the German Grand Prix, comes Tazio Nuvolari in his 1935 Alfa Romeo P3 Tipo B. And that is the car I would buy with an unlimited budget.
I'd buy myself one of those F1 teams. You know, one of the good ones. Not like Force India or McClellan. No, I would buy myself a Mercedes or even Red Bull. I'd get myself a good driver, not Milkaduno. No, I would find myself a Hamilton, a Vettel, one of those. And then I would sit back as the owner and watch them go round and round and round the roundy bits. And I would sit there like John Ficarra drinking a brandy wondering, I wonder what the poor people are doing today.
The first thing I would go with is my old 1982 Toyota Supra. It's kind of a boring pick, but the reason it's the unattainable pick is when I moved out across the country, I left it with my sister's boyfriend. When they broke up, it got scrapped. It's gone, doesn't exist. So I'd have to build a time machine or find someone to build a time machine, go back and rescue the poor car. Kind of boring. The more serious, might actually be able to buy it car would be the 1997 Nissan R390 GT1, the one and only road car that they built to be able to race the car. In 98, for some reason, they took it from red, put a whole new front bumper on it, changed it from a spoiler to a duckbill, kind of rear trunk, and painted it blue. It existed for one, now it just sits in their museum. It shares an engine with a McLaren, or not directly shares, but they are loosely based on each other's footprint. So 1982 Toyota Supra, or more realistically, an R390 GT1 race car.
I'm going to go with a 1928 Bentley Speed 6 Blue Train. This car's got one heck of a story. Wolf Bernardo is on the French Riviera in 1930 at a dinner party on a yacht, bets his friends that he could beat the Blue Train across France in his car. So he proceeds to do so, and he beat it by so much, he actually got on a ferry, went across to England, and beat the train to London. Now this is a priceless car with a really cool story.
So my unlimited budget pick is the one and only $18.7 million Bugatti Bugatti this. It means the black car in French. It's powered by a 8-liter quad turbo W16 engine that produces 1,480 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds with a top speed of 261 miles an hour.
I'm here outside of my garages, and they are of course closed because this is the last video, and it's a sad day because I really enjoyed doing these videos and they were very fun, and I hope you guys have enjoyed them too through this whole VinWiki experience, and I thank Ed again for doing this. So much fun. What I would get is something that's very near and dear to my heart because when I was 12 I started lusting after Aston Martins, the Vanquish, the Vantage, all this stuff, but I would get an Aston Martin DB4 GT Zagato continuation, not the original. I think the continuations, because they're new but true to the old spec, it's very cool. Plus you get a new DBS Superleggera Zagato as well. I would do that, or I would maybe try to get one of the Vanquish Zagatos. I think that those this is my only time picking more than one car for this thing, but the DB4 GT Zagato is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cars, if not the most beautiful car ever made.
When faced with the idea of an unlimited budget, the imagination tends to run wild. Do I get a car? Do I get a private island in the Mediterranean, a helicopter and a jet ski and a seaplane? Anyway, if we're going to think about cars, my mind first started to go in the direction of, you know, a Ferrari 250 GTO because they're so cool, or an Alfa Romeo Tipo 33 Stradale because they're gorgeous. But then I was like, no, I'm not some European jet setter. I'm American, and there's only one car that I would get if money was no object, and that is a Tucker 48. It's innovative, it's a gorgeous car, it was you know, even kind of safe for the time, and it stands as silent testament to the fact that corporate oligarchy always wins. So it's a bittersweet thing. I would love to have that car and drive it around.
So if I was gifted like a bajillion dollars, I wouldn't just buy one car. I would buy many cars. I would have one car for every occasion. I would have multiple cars for every occasion, sort of how it already is. But I don't have a lot of money. These cars are in various states of disrepair. I would just get better examples of what I already have. I'm a simple man.
Hands down, I'm getting the Zenvo TSRS. That stands for Twin Supercharged Race-Bred Street version of the 5.8-liter hypercar by Zenvo. Over 1,000 horsepower, over 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 in under 2.8 seconds. A very amazing, aggressive, animalistic styling. Everything on it is for function.
You know, there's so many cars that are out there. There are Koenigsegg, whether it's the Gamera or the Jesko. I'm not so excited about the Chiron, but, you know, you think of those level cars. But the one that I kept coming back to over and over and over again is a Pagani. And it's because I've seen one in person. I have heard it, more importantly, in person. And that's the Pagani Zonda Cinque. Unbelievable sounding car. Naturally aspirated V12 manual transmission that's just literally out of this world. There's just nothing that sounds like that under full throttle.
Unlimited money. It would probably be this, a video game, not a video game, a Ferrari F50. I think it's the most beautiful car of all time. It's still a manual transmission. Sounds like nothing else. It's my dream car. It's not the most expensive car in the world, but it's definitely the one I would buy with unlimited money.
I am a big fan of setting records, and no car has set more records than the McLaren F1. It is the greatest road car of all time. It was the fastest production car when it was produced, and it still is the fastest normally aspirated production car of all time, and that will never be beaten. It was the fastest 0 to 60, it was the fastest 0 to 100 to 0, and it had a manual transmission. It was the first car to win Le Mans that was not originally designed as a race car. It was the first manufacturer to win Le Mans on their first outing. It was, to my knowledge, the only car to win upper class. It actually beat the higher class prototype cars because it was raining and they all broke down. There is no car ever that had as much thought put into the design and as much cohesiveness in the overall design of the car as a McLaren F1. There will never be a greater car.
If money was no object, I think I'd have to go with something that's entirely bespoke, ridiculously flamboyant, and something that I wanted as a kid. Pagani Zonda R Revolution. Growing up playing Need for Speed as a kid, that was the car I'd always choose. And the styling, the bespoke nature of it, that ridiculous V12 engine, I really think that it's one of the most exciting cars in the world, and I just want to actually see one, much less own one, so that's what I'm going to go with.
The DIY air-cooled Porsche. You can find them anywhere, Singer, Gunther Works. This owner in particular decided that he was going to kind of piece together his own with a 4-liter motor and a 6-speed. Everything's been reworked. I would love to be able to tell you that the correct answer to money no object is to go out and buy a Zonda, or to go out and buy an F50, or to go out and buy a Vector W8. But it's not. If I had to get in a car, drive 1,000 miles to a track day, do a track day, and drive 1,000 miles back, I'd pick this 911 100 times out of 100. It is scintillating, it is well engineered, it is practical, it is comfortable. You can drive it to the grocery, you can drive it there sideways. The correct answer to what would you buy if money was no object? It's an air-cooled 911.
All right, money, no object. I've actually been waiting for this question on the VidWiki channel for quite some time, and I had to give this a decent amount of thought before I arrived at my conclusion. But after everything is said and done, I arrived at a street-legal conversion of a McLaren P1 GTR. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of the McLaren P1, and the P1 GTR is everything that the P1 is, but basically turned up to 11. And the fact that there's a company that makes a street-legal conversion of that car so we can actually enjoy it on the road and not just for track life. The street legal conversion for the McLaren P1 GTR is my choice for the money is no object car.
For merely $3.5 million, you can go buy an Aston Martin DB5, James Bond edition, with everything. I'm talking about rear bullet shields, I'm talking about tyre shredders, we're talking about machine guns in the headlights, apart from they're not real machine guns, obviously. But that's what you can get. Like Aston Martin build one just for you. So not as a James Bond car, it's your own James Bond car, like a full-size one. I thought realistically this car might come up earlier in this conversation, but I didn't realise it was $3.5 million, which is actually a bit. You know, it's more than I've got in my piggy bank right now. But if you have got that, I suggest there's the only one thing you buy is that car. Because wherever you go, you will be not only James Bond, but you'll be your own James Bond, in your own James Bond car. Like, who could want anything better?
For me, it's a car that I fell in love with at the Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance. It's a 1955 Porsche Carrera 1500 GT Speedster. Porsche made 15 Pre-A Speedsters, and this is number 11 in that series. This car is less than 10,000 miles since new. It's beautiful white over red, classic Porsche colors in that series. It's currently for sale for $1.25 million. If you're in the market for a serious collectible, this is certainly one that you should have on your very short list.
Money no object dream car, for sure an F40. F40. If it's not an F40, it's the Aston Martin Vulcan. I love that car too. That's like the sickest, newer supercar, hypercar, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, F40 is like my dream car forever. Twin turbo V8, rear engine, just raw. It's a driver's car. There's no, you know, computers that are stopping you from doing dumb things. It's all you. If you do a sick lap, that was you. That wasn't the car. You know, it's not all-wheel drive. It's not saving you from doing dumb stuff. No ABS, no traction control, no stability control. Just you in the car.
Okay, I had to pick three again. For the track, there are so many amazing fast cars out there, but I'm gonna have to go with the Pagani Huayra. It just looks like the most fun, and Randy likes Paganis too, so that sold me. For the family, the Koenigsegg Gemera appears to be the ultimate family car. 1700 horsepower hypercar with 4 full-size seats, and I mean, just look at the thing, it's amazing. And finally, for fun, and the one I'd take if I could only have one, is of course the McLaren F1. Just the coolest car when it came out, and it's only gotten cooler since, so that's gotta be it.
All right, as far as money being no object, there's one answer. It's either Koenigsegg or you're wrong, right? The Koenigsegg's best cars. The Agera is where I'd put my money. You can even say the 1-to-1. I just don't think there's a better automobile on the planet.
A lot of people think I would buy this SVJ, which I love and I've been driving for quite some time, or my Pista or any of these cars. But really, no, I want to show you what I would buy because I just bought it. And I know that sounds pretty crazy, right? You may not even have seen it yet because it's not all over my YouTube channel or anything else. I want to show you, it would be this Carbon Senna that I just bought. This has been a dream for a long time, absolutely beautiful. And you can see it here, it's fully exposed carbon. You see it? I just want to show you, see, fully exposed carbon. Came out of Beverly Hills. And that is a $1.5 million car, and it is absolutely perfect. And I think that is the car anyone should buy if their wallets were limitless.
Everyone's gonna pick the Ferrari 250 GTO, but guess what? I'm not a Ferrari fan. Lambo's in my garage. So, it's not a Lambo either. So I would pick the McLaren F1 LM in papaya orange. Boom, that's the one. Nothing beats that. That's my choice.
A 1937 Auto Union Type C Grand Prix car. One of the Silver Arrows that raced in the 30s. They had a V16 that was 6 liters, supercharged, 500 horsepower, 630 pound-feet of torque in 1937, and it fits with my Audi history.
Well, I think I would go for a 250, probably 250 GTO. I didn't find any around, but Fred has been kind enough to let us film around with his amazing 250 short wheelbase from 61. Look at the style of these cars, well, whether it's a GTO or a short wheelbase. As far as money being no object, that's what I would definitely go for. Look at this. Imagine you driving this on the French Riviera or so, or on mountain roads, even, because it's still very light and all.
If money was no object and we simply couldn't just buy the most expensive car and sell it and get like 12 other cars we wanted, I would pick a 1964 Pontiac GTO. Now, I know it's not the most expensive car, it's not the fastest car, but I consider it the first muscle car. I love Pontiac, I love American muscle, and I have always wanted a 1964 GTO. So that's what I would buy, and I'd assume if money was no object, I got all sorts of other cool cars as well.
So if I were among the lucky few who live the money is no object lifestyle, one of my first purchases would have to be this car, the Pagani Huayra. This car was a masterful creation by Horacio Pagani, who of course left Lamborghini to build cars his way on his terms. Derived from its predecessor, the Pagani Zonda, the Huayra is more evolutionary than revolutionary, and I'm okay with that. It's powered by a twin-turbo 6-liter Mercedes V12, churning out about 700 horsepower and 728 pound-feet of torque. And while it isn't the most powerful supercar around, at just 2,900 pounds, it has a power-to-weight ratio that bests even the mighty Bugatti Veyron Super Sport, and that's something. With its 7-speed sequential gearbox, the car gets to 60 miles an hour in just under 3 seconds on its way to a top speed of about 230 or 240 miles per hour. Pretty good, right? What draws me to this car, though, is really the craftsmanship and the aviation-inspired switchgear and the active aero. Inside the car, the switchgear has the look and feel of vintage aircraft. The metal switches feel as if they're pulled from the Art Deco era, a time when daredevils took to the air. The active aero, of course, includes flaps on the hood and on the rear deck, which respond to yaw through steering input, throttle position, and braking force. Every detail inside the car is interesting and functional in unique ways. When you pull the skin off by opening the hood, the doors, and by lifting the rear clamshell, the beautiful carbon fiber chassis is exposed. In my eyes, is the pinnacle of design and performance.
What's up, people? For money, no object, what would I buy that you can't have? Now, first and foremost, I would not choose a Ferrari 250 GTO. Those things are common by comparison. The ultimate car to buy out there is Jim Hall's Chaparral 2A002. That was his first composite monocoque chassis that beat Ferrari Formula One to composites by 20 years. It won Sebring in 1965, and the final iteration as it sits right now is so cool. Number 66 with the zoomy headers, velocity stacks, mustaches, louvers, and everything. And if by chance I can't get that, or I can get more, I would go after Chaparral 2E. Small block, aluminum monocoque, stilt wing, I love it. But just remember, guys, when money is no object, that basically means you can't have it, you can't afford it. But there's a way around it. You build it.
When it comes to money being absolutely no object, I could have talked about cars all day long. I eventually went with my dream car, which was a Koenigsegg Agera RS. That has always been my dream car. It's always been the car I've always wanted to review, but then I forgot that the Koenigsegg Jesko came out, which is a whopping $3 million. So if money is truly no object, then I'm going for the Koenigsegg Jesko that apparently is able to do over 300 miles per hour and make 1,600 horsepower on E85. Pretty hard to beat that, even though it's definitely not the bargain of the century. Peak performance, it looks incredible. I actually saw it while I was in Saudi Arabia, and I was absolutely in love, because in photos, I wasn't too sure if I was going to like it as much as I liked the Agera. So, Koenigsegg Jesko, that's my money no object, unlimited funds car I would choose.
What up, VinWiki crew? Ed's giving me the ultimate dream car budget, unlimited budget. What would I get? Well, my dream has always been to have potentially a Bugatti in my garage. However, the one downside, if I won the lottery with the Bugatti, is it's not rear wheel drive and it's never been designed to be like a fun car to play with, like donuts and drifting and all the things I personally like to do. However, they've recently released the brand new Bugatti Chiron Pure Sport with drift mode. There is a god. So that would be my choice, unlimited budget. There you have it. There's no mystery to me. I just like to do dumb stuff and crazy cars. That's why I'm DD. Have a great day. Peace.
I went with something a little bit higher class, something a little bit more environmentally friendly. So, but still a lot of power. and that's important. Still a lot of features, that's important. Active aero, torque vectoring, an electric motor at each wheel. You don't know which car you hit, huh? Okay, what if I tell you it costs $2 million? What if I tell you it has over 1,900 horsepower? Still don't know what car it is? Okay, there's only 130 allocations for this car this year, and there's a lucky 130 people gonna get it, and I've actually already reviewed it, sat in it, touched it, everything, the monocoque chassis, I've seen it all. That's right, it's the Lotus Evija. It's a motor at each wheel, 368 kilowatts per wheel. That's 1,970 horsepower. You just can't beat it.
I'm going with the Pagani Zonda R. The thing has zero prestige, zero racing pedigree, and it's not street legal. Yet, it looks like Pagani was a manufacturer for a GT1 team, and the thing screams. It's absolutely ridiculous.
At this price point, I get to set aside my normal reservations about warranties, maintenance, and the total cost of ownership. Door number 1 takes me down an ultra custom one-off commission. If I open that door, I'm going to go with the Maybach Excelero. It's a one-of-one twin-turbo V12, and it brings that retro futuristic styling of a vehicle that might be found in the BioShock universe, if the BioShock universe wasn't set underwater. Door number 2 for me is an ultra-rare production vehicle. And if I open that door, I'm gonna go with the Mercedes-Benz 1/R50. It is a plug-in hybrid, which some of you won't like, but I love the look on that car, and I think it's an awesome option.
Over the last couple months, I've been honored to be a part of this series. Even though I may be a little bit out of my wheelhouse on prices, I did buy a Pantera for $1 million. But I'd like to thank Ed, and especially Adriel, for editing all this stuff together. They've given us car guys an opportunity to talk cars with a whole bunch of other people that we may not have had an opportunity to do so. So this week, money is no object. Sky's the limit. My vehicle of choice is a 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder. They didn't make very many of them. This is the vehicle that killed James Dean, or James Dean was killed in. But it is an incredible vehicle. Now you can buy an amazing replica built right here in Indiana, which would be a Beck 550 Spyder, but if money were no object, I'd go for the real thing. My last and final choice, my buddy Scott Velvet owns the Celebrity Car Museum in Branson, Missouri. You know, Sin City without the sin. But he has the most incredible star car museum I've ever been to, and I'm a star car guy. I asked him the other day, I said, if money was no object, if I handed you a blank check, would you hand me keys to the museum? He said yes. I'd own the star car mecca of the world. Thanks for having me on. You guys have a great 4th of July.
Hey everybody, and happy Canada Day for anybody in Canada, and happy 4th of July for when you're seeing this in the US. Real quick, for my money is no object pick, I think I would get an F1 car for sale at auction. I think the last one that I saw go up went for about $7.5 million US for a 10-year-old Ferrari or 15-year-old Ferrari F1 car. But basically, I wouldn't really care which one it was. It would just be a really blast thing to own and be amazing to take out on the track someday.
My pick would be a Porsche 911 GT1 Strassen version. So this is a road-going version of the race car. And what I would do is, because these were all really, homologation cars. They weren't, necessarily production cars that you can go out and buy at dealerships. What I would do is I would send this car over to Sharkworks for them to tweak it a bit. This car comes with a sequential gearbox. Obviously better for racing, but I would have them swap it out for some sort of 6-speed manual that would mate up to that hybrid air-cooled motor that's in those cars. After they kind of make that car a little bit more livable, I would send it over to Porsche Classic for them to respray the entire car in factory signal orange. Glass out, it has to be perfect because money is no object. And lastly, I would have the car sent to Singer, where they would outfit and custom tailor the entire interior of the car, which is what they truly do best. That would be my dream car. I'm so glad I was able to think of it throughout this series, and happy to be able to share these with you guys.
What's up guys, Mike from Max Speed. If money was no object, I would probably have
hundreds of cars, probably even thousands. But if I had to pick one car, it'd have to be a really special car. And for me, that really special car is going to be the 1966 Ford GT40 Mark II with the chassis code P1046. That's the one that actually won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And it's got a pure-blooded racing history behind it and is a really special car. I know somebody owns it right now, but if you offered them the right amount of money, which you can do in this case with all the money in the world, I'm sure they would sell it. And I'd have to have that specific car.
I was trying to get creative and thinking of maybe it was a famous race car, maybe a GT40 from the 60s or something, but I kept on coming back to wanting to have something I can drive both on the street and potentially on the track. So I came down to this, which is the obvious choice for me. It is the McLaren F1 LM. Awesome color. I mean, you start with the engine, a BMW Source V12, 671 horsepower, 8,500 RPM, redline. Proper 6-speed manual transmission. I can't even imagine what the acceleration on that car is, considering it's only, less than 2,400 pounds. So it's a complete work of art, between the 3 seats in the interior, and just look at that exhaust. So I think for me, it is an absolute no-brainer. F1 LM.
If I had an unlimited budget to spend, I'd probably try and convince the guys over at Singer Vehicle Design to reimagine the Lamborghini Countach. I know they only do 911s, but I'm hoping if you walked in there and say, look, I've got a blank check with your name on, just make it happen, they would. I just think that car, 80s, classic Italian, reimagined by Singer, would just be completely exquisite. No idea how much it would cost, but I'd definitely order 2, because I would definitely put one in the ditch, and then I've always got a backup.
Unlimited budget, that's a tough one. But I know that everyone and their mother is going to pick a McLaren F1 LM, because I honestly think that that's what I would choose. But let's go with a 993 GT1, because it doesn't get much cooler than that.
How you doing, guys? So today is a very special day. It is what would you buy for any amount in the world, and I think it's probably the most iconic car I can imagine. And every kid knows it, every grandparent knows it, and I know it. It's based on the Dynaco 43 car from the movie In Cars, but it's Richard Petty's Superbird. I mean, if I could have a real Richard Petty owned Superbird, I think you've made it in life. There you go, guys. Stay safe and keep jolly.
What single car would I get if money was no object? Awesome and difficult question. I immediately thought of the McLaren F1, probably number 11, which is in blue and I love. Maybe a F40 LM, also an amazing car. There's only 19 of them. I would consider some 50s and 60s cars like the 375mm Ferrari that won Pebble Beach Best in Show, or the 59 Testarossa. I like the 66 Jaguar XJ13, beautiful British car, and the 67 Ferrari P4. However, in the end, to reiterate, money being no object, I would go with the Schumacher Formula One car. You can actually do this if you can get into the Ferrari F1 Clienti program, which is where they send your Formula One car to various tracks around the world, like Imola, Road Atlanta, Nürburgring. You fly in, you drive, they take care of everything. You get to drive probably the best sounding, most awesome car of all time. The V10 revs to 18,000 plus RPM, more than double what this one does. And to me, that would be my dream and ultimate thing I could ever imagine doing as a car guy.
Thank you all so much. Great answers as always, and thank you for the contributions over the last few weeks. If you've got a better idea, please let us know what your dream car is in the comments. What your dream car is at Money No Object is really a great way to boil down what it is that you love about cars and about the automotive hobby. So I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. Thank you so much for watching, and please do subscribe. We'd like to thank the Ticket Clinic for supporting this video and this month of VinWiki Car Stories. If you get a ticket, no matter where it happens, it can have disastrous effects on your insurance premiums, points on your license, even suspensions. And so wherever you're at, their national law firm has a representative that can help you fight the ticket and achieve the best possible outcome. They kept me out of jail in Arkansas last year, and I've used them several times. So I certainly recommend them personally. I've sent a lot of friends their way, and they've all had great experiences. So check them out at the link in the description below for a discount.